بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله، يعطيكم العافية جميعا، ولقاء جديد مع قائد جديد. فنبغى نستمتع اليوم ونسمع قصة ملهمة مع قائد إن شاء الله ملهم. اليوم عندنا القائد نادر عاشور. طبعا I'm biased لأنه هو عندي من الكوهورت تبعي طبعا والتراك تبعي. anyway I'm very happy to have Nader اليوم. And Nader, thank you صراحة for being the leader's mic today. And as usual I will start with the first question اللي هو tell us about Nader the person, الإنسان. عرفنا عنك أكثر. احنا صح درسنا سوا وقعدنا سوا 9 شهور وأكثر, but we want to know more Nader the person.
All right, so first of all, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you all for attending, and it's a real pleasure to be here among this esteemed group of leaders. And صراحة اللي بتسووه انتوا دكتورة amazing, and I love this room, so I think we share a lot of commonalities, cars, watches, and many other things, so it makes me feel comfortable. Again, I went through the previous sessions, really inspiring. So try to do my best to make it as engaging and as real, as genuine as possible. أخوكم نادر عاشور, نادر صالح عاشور. I grew up, I'm the middle child, so grew up في المنطقة الشرقية. والدي كان دكتور عميد شؤون المكتبات ironically في جامعة البترول من المعادن, أحد مؤسسين جامعة البترول. Grew up there all my life. And obviously when واحد يكون في الشرقية ومتفوق في دراسته would immediately jump to Aramco. That part maybe I'll talk about it in the professional section, but for now, again, a very much family guy. I'm an introvert, but I speak a lot at work. But people are surprised at work. يمكن ناصر إنه يمكن أكثر واحد I'm vocal about my opinions and always trying to drive the organization, but try to keep my energy for the family. I'm a big fan of tennis amongst many other things. 3 of my kids are actually بنتي تالا, she actually plays لعبت في سريلانكا الشهر الماضي للسعودية. She's under 14. She was in Indian Wells last month. ولدي سليمان وسامي نفس الشيء. Well, this is pretty much me. I'm a simple guy. I've heard the word simplicity a lot in many videos. Zain was the last video. I'm a simple person. So yes, I guess maybe that's part of what we share as leaders. I'm still self-discovering myself, and that's the beauty about just see what life has for me and just living the moment.
طيب. And that takes us to the second question, which is tell us about your, أو قبل هذا خلينا نقول what shaped Nader as a leader.
I think it's this would be easy. So if I link the personal and the professional and the experiences I went through, I think hadn't it been for the experiences I went through and the upbringing I had, I think I wouldn't be where I am today. Obviously, I have to say, and I always give credit to my wife, having a supportive wife, especially with someone very committed to his job. Those of you who work with me directly or indirectly know that when I go in, I go fully in the job. So having someone that's my right arm, as اللي هي زوجتي روتانا, I give her all the credit for where I am today. بعد توفيق رب العالمين ورضا الوالدين. So grew up في جامعة البترول. Things happen sometimes without knowing how. So I was not average student, كنت يعني طالب امتياز بس يعني على الحفة 89 90 91 92 living my life. And I remember came back one day وفي ثانية ثانوي وجاء الأول على الدفعة قال لي نادر طلعت الأول على الدفعة. قلت له تمزح يعني. المهم I don't know what happened, and that was really the start of me kind of excelling academically. So I come from a family of medical doctors. كل عائلتي دكاترة, ودكتور أحمد عاشور ما يقرب لي اللي يسألني دائما, لا بس في عواشير كثير دكاترة ثانيين يقربوا لي. So again, graduated from high school. As many maybe youngsters, especially your kids maybe today, I really had no clue what I wanted to do with my life or what my passion is in terms of a career perspective. So by default, I had a friend of mine said, how about medical school? I applied to Aramco, I got accepted, جامعة البترول. طب يلا طب رحنا طب. Finished my first year of basically medical school, top of my class. كنت الثاني specifically على الدفعة. بدأت السنة الثانية بدأنا صار موضوع more medical anatomy والكلام البايوكيمستري والأشياء الهيفي heavy medical stuff. I remember I felt that wasn't right for me. Went back home and I told my parents at that time medical school wasn't for me. طبعا على طول طبعا people جاتك عين واتذكر ابوي وداني في مسجد في الخبر واول مره اشوف واحد apparently كان مسه جن وقلت يا ابوي دخلتني في بلا جن بلا بشوف قدامي انا apparently واحد فقلت لا this الوضع صعب. So I told my yet again so I knew that I don't want medical school. I was really living the dream of my parents and my family expectations. So ended up going to from medical school to architecture. يمكن هذه كثير ناس ما يعرفوها وفي القصص لها. But again, and I will talk about it later, these experiences and decisions I've made have taught me a lot, and I truly believe had it been for these experiences, I wouldn't be where I am today. So I went to architectural school. The background is I have an artistic side in me, and I've always liked painting and drawing, and I loved art. At a younger age كان في مسابقة حقت أرامكو للرسم فزت فيها and it kind of grew on me this artistic aspect of things and loving beauty in all shapes and forms. فكملت سنة وأتذكر كان في واحد الله يذكره بالخير من شباب جدة. طبعا دخلت برضو في الاركتكتشر سكول. I was the first on the class. فجاني واحد كان أكبر مني بكم سنة اسمه فراس مارديني. So maybe one day he will hear this من شباب جدة. قال لي نادر what the hell are you doing in architectural school؟ اللي يعرف الهندسة المعمارية في جامعة البترول that's basically كان مأوى الناس معظمهم إلا من يعني فئة قليلة كان مأوى الناس people that basically didn't do well in engineering school end up as a last resort doing architectural school. It's a very small school with few students. فحطمني قال لي نادر do you know what's going to happen to you from medical school to architecture unless you open your own firm and kind of excel in what you do you're going to end up being a draftsman or whatever. kind of opened up my mind again. This time ما كان عندي جرأة أقول لأهلي فكان عندي واحد صاحبي اسمه أحمد كاكي قال لي أمي يا خالة بقابلك نطلع نشرب قهوة ترى ولدك بيسوي جرية ثانية. And I ended up going to business school في جامعة البترول. Not for the love of business school per se but it was really I ran out of options. يعني طيب engineering ما كنت أبغى. Architecture turned out not to be the thing and medical school we talked about. فرحت basically الوالد كان في صلاة المغرب وقابل واحد دكتور سوداني الله يذكره بالخير دكتور محمد علي مرغني who I owe him a lot. قال له خليه يجيني وبدأت الرحلة من هناك. تخرجت الحمد لله من جامعة البترول 4.0. حصلت على جائزة الأمير محمد بن فهد للتفوق العلمي. وبرضه كنت قاعد في قهوة مع الشباب فقال لي صاحبي why don't you apply to Aramco؟ قلت له but يعني ما كنت أعرف إنه عنده برنامج الالتحاق بعد الدراسة. I think at those days if you had 70 credit hours you can apply and join Aramco. I did. I gave him my transcript. Literally 2 days I got a phone call. You got accepted to join. So I joined Aramco. I graduated with a degree in accountancy, which I understand is not the most fun thing. I don't see myself as an accountant, but it is what it is. But I think accountancy did help me a lot in kind of to see things differently, and I think it's an important part of who I am today. طبعا دخلت Aramco. I was very blessed with the organization I worked with. I started in hardcore accountancy where and many of the technical matters within Aramco at that time was basically managed by a lot of the expats. لا تنسوا Aramco بدأت كشركة أمريكية وبعدين تم مساعدتها ولكن في هذيك الفترة ما زالت بعض الأمور وبعض المهام كانت معطية ل subject matter experts in certain areas. And I always had the eye for details. I think I'm a quick learner and very quickly they noticed that and I was very blessed by working with various executives in Aramco who took note of me. And قبل ما أخلص السنة الثانية من عملي في Aramco, I was exempted from those of you that worked in Aramco, the PDP program, which is the kind of the prep development program for people that are fresh grads. It's a 3-year program. I lasted there, I think, for 18 months. They said, you know, take your first promotion and go apply for business school. طبعا يمكن back to the family, my father US educated, ترك المدينة المنورة وعمره اعتقد 17-18 سنة وفجأة لقى نفسه في Texas. Did his undergrad, masters and PhD there, and my mother studied with him. I don't know if she did her masters or not, but she did her studies there. ووالدتي رائدة أعمال. And I think the upbringing also plays a very big role in how it shaped my leadership style, because we had a very democratic, family where my parents actually included us on tough decisions in the house. So some people find that wrong, some people find that right, but they were very transparent about what was going on in the house. وقت الغداء أبوي أكاديمي بحت، يعني عميد شؤون المكتبات، فيعني it doesn't get more academic than that. My mother was all about the struggles of business and ريادة الأعمال والissues والفيز والتكاليف so kind of appreciated both worlds. And وكانت في مائدة الطعام إذا كان في موضوع ما بينهم we was very okay for us to provide an opinion. وأتذكر هذا الشيء لاحظ واحد من رؤسائي لما I was very young, but I was very comfortable talking to an executive or a minister or the CEO. It's like, نادر أنت وضعكم في البيت كان عادي ترد على أبوك وأمك؟ قلت لهم مرة عادي، يعني they would take it with an open heart وحدود طبعا الأدب يعني، ولكن we can have the conversation, the debate. And I think that played a very big role for me to feel very comfortable to engage with different stakeholders of different levels in different organizations. طبعا نرجع موضوع الدراسة لأنه you could see that education is a very integral part of what I believe made me today. And it runs in the family. فكملت السنة الثانية، قبل السنة الثانية قالوا لي apply to business schools. طبعا في الباك جراوند في الميديكال سكول، لأنه أنا 2 من عيال عمي برضو موظفين أرامكو تخرجوا من هارفارد ميديكال سكول، دكتور عدنان عاشور الله يرحمه والدكتور خالد عاشور. فلما قدمت لبزنس سكولز طبعا my father being US educated دخلت على US نيوز، شفت التوب بزنس سكولز، قدمت هارفارد MIT ستانفورد كورنيل، بعدين remember كذا جامعة، وسويت باك اب سكولز في بوردو سكول، جورج واشنطن ولا whatever school. To my surprise I got accepted to Harvard Business School for a full-time MBA. فرجعت لبيت لأمي قلت لها ما سويت Harvard Medical School, but I guess Harvard Business School is close enough. So 2007 packed everything, sold everything I had, and headed with my wife. We were newly married. We actually lived on the Harvard campus, so we were very fortunate where we were given an apartment there in the main camp of Harvard Business School. That dream of going to Harvard Business School again was not meant to be. طبعا اللي درس في الجامعات هذه سواء ستانفورد MIT Harvard, you realize that the difficult part is not getting through the program. The difficult part is actually getting accepted. And it wasn't an easy journey because I had to really work my back off in terms of the essays, the recommendations, الجيمات، يعني طحن فيها طحن. وكثير ناس doubted إنه يعني هارفارد شوية بعيدة عنك يعني، فاهم؟ Surprisingly I got accepted to Harvard Business School. Went there. My wife الله يعطيها العافية برضو got accepted to Harvard Extension School, which is another kind of part-time school, and she was pursuing I think her master's in finance. Almost 3 months in the program طبعا it was very clear to me من البداية إني ارتكبت خطأ كبير، وهذا يمكن في حديث آخر، إنه my decision was a bit superficial where I was looking for the brand, what's the best US business school, Harvard والى آخره، وما سويت دراسة يعني دقيقة. What is Harvard Business School? How do they differ from the Stanfords, the MITs, and some of the European schools like LBS ولا انسياد ولا إسادي ولا IMD, which I ended up going to. افتكر very clearly كان في واحد وراي I think he was South African جاء البروفيسور كذا في ثاني شهر قال I have some unfortunate news مستر فلان الفلاني قرر انه ايش يطلع من هارفارد for personal reasons he realized it's not for him and he wanted to go back to his old work. طلعت قلت طيب كان راودتني الفكرة من أول بس طبعا زي ما تقول this guy kind of made it say alright if he did it I could do it. طبعا I did it. I went back home. زوجتي قالت لي أنت متأكد؟ قلت لها متأكد. قالت لي استنى كم يوم فكر استخير إلى آخره. استخرت الله فكرت في الموضوع. I ended up basically submitting my basically letter of I don't want to call it resignation or withdrawal. It was a very tedious process. Obviously, Aramco had done, you know, I'm very grateful, I have to say, and to be on record, really grateful for the super years of Aramco. I think Aramco also played a tremendous part of Aramco Madrasa, like no other really in terms of young talent. And I believe there still are, and I am forever grateful for the opportunities they gave me, because here comes a young guy that suddenly, and some people saw it انه هذا ولد مدلع ايش اللي ما عجبني ابغى اسحب بعد ما دفعنا لك فلوس الى اخره. وتعرف Aramco at that time I think they take you on something called Chapter 14 or living on camp, business class tickets الى اخره. نوعا ما it's a bit في رفاهية نوعا ما لاني I was an employee no longer just a student. Went back. It was a moment of self-doubt because I didn't realize the backlash of people that questioned, the decision of me withdrawing from Harvard. But I am a very passionate person when we talk about, how am I as a leader. And with passion and where studies or work is more than work, it's the way you live and it's what you love to do. You better be internally satisfied, otherwise it's not going to work. So I'm not a 7 to 4, employee, nor am I a student that would get an average student. I put all my weight in, not because of the scores itself, ولا العلامات ما كان هدفي, but I had the passion of learning, and I continue to have that passion of learning, and I believe that learning is something you take from إيش من المهدي إلى اللحد, from cradle to grave, and that's something that I try to instill in my kids. فالعموم went back. طبعا I said all right, you need to تدارك الموضوع. There were a lot of doubts. At the end of the day, I had to prove them that I know what I'm doing. I remember I sat down, I said, okay, what do you want to do? I said, okay, first thing, let me go as an accountant. Let me start pursuing my professional designations. وانا في الطياره بدات طلبت الكتب قبل وانا لسه انا كنت قاعد بدرس ورتانا زوجتي بتلم العفش وبترتب وما ادري وانا was fully centered on my books. Sat down for my CMA designation, which is basically a certified management accountant. For me, it was the easiest in terms of completion. I didn't have the CPA with others required a lot of prerequisites, so I said, let me start with this. Went back, finished my exams قبل ما أبدأ أرجع لشغل أرامكو تقريبا في شهرين ثلاثة. I don't remember the time, but I did it over. I put so much pressure on myself, to be honest with you, just saying you better turn out things to make it look better. جاني ذكر واحد رجال أمريكي عجوز اسمه كريس رودي, and I remember his name surprisingly. قال لي نادر, what were your scores? قلت له scores. قال لي نادر, I think what you've done is something unbelievable. I think you're going to be recognized as being one of the top papers or الناس اللي أخذوا الاختبار في السنة هذيك 2007. And it turned out I think I got the fourth or the top 10. I can't remember the number at this stage. Top 10 في العالم في CMA. فكانت هذه أول قلت الحمد لله. Although that wasn't the intention, I never knew there was an award. Got the recognition. كان عندي برضو رئيس ثاني اسمه Ray Krigsman. Again, I'm seeing the names of a lot of expats at that time holding these technical matters. قال لي نادر, it takes a lot of courage to do what you're doing. You better go back to school. قلت له طيب فين? Apparently at that time he was doing his executive program في جامعة اسمها, we have a school called IMD in Switzerland. طبعا ما عمري لا رحت سويسرا. انا اتذكر كانوا عيال الشيوخ كانوا ايام في المدرسه ايوه احنا نروح جنيفا الكرنفال المدري مين وكذا. ايام كانت جنيفا was the place to be back in the 80s, and تعرفي اول شيء جنيفا بعدين صار مربيه وافري تايم دحين صاروا الناس سكي ريزورت في سويسرا فكل مره يطلع في there's a trend. So at that time Geneva Carnival and whatever was the thing. فقال لي وكان هو امريكي بيني وبينه فلما سمعت انه هو بيسوي البروجرام قال لي go check it out. I went and I checked it out. But this time I'm going to do my homework. I called the school. They had a much more elaborate acceptance program. You go there, you visit, you do case studies, they assess you يعني ينخلوك نخل. اكتشفت ان في واحد سعودي فقط تخرج من هناك قبلي بسنتين يمكن بعض الناس يعرفوه الاخ سلطان التركي مجموعه النهله he's the CEO of النهله. He came and met me and I remember back in the days فوق بورشا اللي كان في طريق الملك مكتبه هناك جاني قال لي هي برضه graduate جامعه البترول قبلي بسنتين the only grad from the full-time MBA at that time. دحين ما شاء الله الIMD a lot of the government institutions it's becoming a really a very known school in the region, especially in Saudi for executive education, but they're not known for their full-time MBA because I'll get to it. Very small class, only 90 students versus Harvard, 1,800 students. Very multidisciplinary in terms of different teaching methods, case studies, research, projects, whatever, textbooks. So you have really the full breadth of different tools to learn from. And you were only 90 students. And the average age of students in Europe usually, typically, اللي راحوا الجامعات ما بين 30 32. So in Harvard, when I was 27 at that time, I was one of the eldest in schools because you had a lot of bright people out of the junior McKinsey associates, junior banking associates from the JP Morgan Stanleys of this world. فأنا جيت حسيت نفسي كنت من الكبار في Europe. It's quite the opposite where you had people اللي you feel very humbled اللي جنبك دكتور double PhD ولا اللي يكون جنرال في الميلتري حقه ولا هذا. The learning was much more intense and much more rich and يعني at least for me I'm not underscoring what Harvard has to offer. Who am I to do that? But at least for what I'm looking for, IMD turned out to be the probably one of the best experiences I had. My daughter was born there. That made it even more special for me and my wife. رجعت وكانت هذه نقطة الانطلاقة لنادر. And again, part of it, I think part of me, I'm a very logical person. I don't take things at maybe face value. I like to get into the details, but I also can step back and look at the very big picture, and that's kind of shaped who I am. Very quickly, رجعت لأرامكو, assumed a couple of major, basically, projects. I was the youngest within Saudi Aramco to attend any board of Saudi Aramco. I remember the first two boards we attended. One was in Seoul, Korea. The other one was in Tokyo, Japan. That also shaped me being close to the ministers, the big, people, being there mirroring our basically CFO, being ready to answer any question, knowing every single detail of what's happening in the business, because you are expected in such high-level board to be ready for any question in any place. So Aramco is not a normal company. Aramco is this massive, basically business that does everything from aviation to marine to oil and gas to renewables to chemicals to building schools, building hospitals. And at that time, before PIF was what it is today, Aramco played a very big role in terms of shaping a lot of the projects in the kingdom. صرف المياه في جدة, تبني مبنى الملعب حق الجوهرة, Aramco. فAramco really played a very big role in that. And that was part of the learning because you pretty much every time was working on something very different. يوم شغال oil and gas, يوم renewables, يوم في إثراء مشروع, how do you commercialize إثراء and make it happen. And the list goes on and on. I think the defining moment for me is when I get a call, and that was, I think, 2015. And I get a call from my boss at that time. He wasn't my direct boss. He was ultimately the CFO of the business, Ustad Khalid Dabagh, who is today, I think, the chairman of SABIC and also a member of the Aramco board. قال لي Nader, come see me in my office. I have something extremely important. قال لي listen, if there's someone that can make the Aramco IPO happen, it's going to be you. طلعت كذا طيب ايش IPO؟ قال لي basically the government is considering to list Aramco. طبعا في بدايات listing, it wasn't very clear what the hell are we trying to list. Is it Aramco the mothership, Aramco الكيان هذا الضخم, well, it's going to be basically IPOing certain assets. So because we've done it before. Petrorabig was listed, Villa Bahri merger happened وفي أعتقد قبل كم سنة and Villa which is الشركة حقت الأسطول البحري حقت Aramco crude carriers were then merged with شركة البحري الشركة المساهمة الآن. There were some certain experiences we had. We also had a listed company in Korea called S-Oil من أكبر المصافي إذا مو أكبر مصافي في Korea. I'm not sure of the numbers but I know it's a massive business in Korea which is a listed company. برضو في اليابان فيه شركة اسمها شوا شل. I believe it was also listed in the Tokyo Stock Exchange. again هي يمكن هذه القصة الطويلة بس in a short version. طبعا قبلها I was also part of selected part of a very small team just before the IPO of the أيام المعالي خالد الفالح. المهندس خالد الفالح was at that time the CEO of Aramco and he was doing the Vision 2020. We're now 2024 so that was also a great experience لأنه كان الباص حقي واحد اسمه basically السقاف محمد السقاف who turned out then later to become الدكتور محمد السقاف أبو أحمد who then became the rector of جامعة البترول. يمكن بعض الناس يعرفوه one of the brightest minds MIT graduate يعني رجال نعم الرجل amazing mind. So I was really fortunate if you notice in what I'm talking about I really was fortunate to have the right leaders. And I think that's something as leaders of today we need to reflect that we have a big influence on the people that work for us and for the next generations. كل واحد في هذول القادة اللي اشتغلت معاهم سواء كان معتصم المعشوق خالد الفالح عبد اللطيف العثمان which was the CFO قبله محمد العلي another CFO and the names go on and on. Played a very important role and again I get the phone call Aramco IPO. استمر الاي بي او فتره طويله لانه كل مره كنا نروح نكتشف انه what we understood or wanted to understand as Aramco was very different of what the government expected and the government had much bigger expectations. We wanted to ship the entire business and it was time for it to be listed and it actually happened. I led the entire IPO from end to end at a very young age. I was entrusted. I remember the old timers اللي في أرامكو اللي أحد يتعامل معاه they're very proud people. أرامكو نسبة لهم أكثر من شركة. يعني زمان اللي كان في الشرقية طبعا ما أعرف جدة إذا بيروح يخطب إذا الأم تبى تكشخ في ولدها تقول ترى أنا ابني موظف أرامكو. يعني هذا يعني شيء إنه يعني إيش؟ يعني شيء كبير. Obviously things have changed. At that time Aramco was the employer of choice. Now the market has changed dramatically and there are many employers of choice I think as we speak today. But as I mentioned Aramco I will be forever grateful for the learnings I had there. فكنت حتقولي كيف انتهيت في جدة because we're in جدة. I don't know. I was in a car. At the time, Ritz-Carlton, when Ritz-Carlton was the Ritz-Carlton, there was a ministerial committee. Obviously, you need to understand how serious and sensitive the Aramco IPO was. So it wasn't only Aramco and the Minister of Petroleum at that time. لا كان في all the ministers, all the key stakeholders, SEDA at that time, being the ultimate basically decision maker and committee that we were reported into. كنت رايح للريتز كارلتون لاجتماع وزاري او لجنه ما اسمها اجتماع وزاري او لجنه وزاريه فيها key stakeholders of the IPO and I get a call and it happened to be from who became right now a very close friend of mine. He told me the Bupa story واكون صادق معكم I didn't even know اصلا بوبا ايش لانه اللي كان عايش في ارامكو ما عندهم تامين. اللي عايش في ارامكو يروح لجاها اللي هي جونز هوبكنز. فنسبة لي التأمين هذا أعرف تأمين التعاونية لتأمين السيارات. أما بوبا تأمين تعاوني أول مرة تأمين صحي أول مرة أسمعه. He gave me a call قال لي بكلمك. أنا حسبته هو من JP Morgan. Turned out to be as a JP Morgan executive director that turned to be غير مهنته وصار head hunter one of the bigger firms. قال لي بكلمك. المهم قال لي بوبا. قلت له واتس بوبا. بدأت أسأل. روتانا زوجتي كانت تبى تيجي أتذكر جدة remember كانت بتسوي زيارة يا الحرم يا عمرة يا زيارة بس. فقلت لها تعالي we'll go there for half an hour ونكسبها ونطلع للحرم. That meeting lasted for 4 hours. I met الأخ العزيز طل ناظر, who was my boss and partner of crime على قولتهم for the last 8 years. I went in بدون أي interest نهائيا, left the room without even agreeing on any financial packages. قال لي نادر, when can you start? And I knew that from that moment that this is the right thing for me, and it was the quickest decision I've made. I made a lot of decisions, but that was very clear to me. زوجتي ألاقي طبعا طلعت الجوال 400,000 واتساب, ما ادري اذا كان في واتساب ايام ولا لا, but I'm assuming واتساب ومكالمات فينك وما ادري مين, وهي قاعده في ستاربكس على فكره اللي جنب المكتب. Joined Jeddah Bupa in November 2016. I remember I started my work قبل ما اصلا يكون بدايه الدوام. Very hands on. انا يمكن الناس اللي يعرفوني, I think part of what makes me is I like to أحب أشمر و get into the job. I think leading by example is I think a key aspect of earning, especially when you come in as someone. مين هذا اللي جاي؟ الشاب اللي قبلي كان واحد a veteran of insurance guy, a British guy, احنا شركة بريطانية في الأصل. Again, I was the youngest at that time in the executive team by far. You had to really kind of يعني تثبت نفسك. And what better way is to show them who you are. I was very quickly able to do that, and building the right team, getting the right people around me, and selling them the Bupa story. I came at a very difficult time. Bupa is not what it was today. هذا مو فضل يعني شيء رجالي, لكن I think I played a very good part in that, and I helped stabilize the business in a very difficult year. I think Nasser here was also an integral part of that. In 2016, 2017, we went through a phase of price wars, profits plummeted big time, so we had to take tough decisions. So obviously as the CFO, I had to come in and kind of make these tough decisions, scrutinize the numbers and all that. Very quickly, I was basically identified as a future talent in the organization. I was asked to join the Bupa board, and Nasser was برضو key player around changing our basically articles to make that role. So عشان كذا بقول لكم العلاقة, يمكن الناس اللي شافوا my farewell, I cried 2 days ago or last week, لأنه Bupa has a culture like no other company. I with due respect, الناس اللي اشتغلوا هناك, I think what Bupa has created, and I think a big reason they are where they are today is because of the culture that was created. It's more than just a company. When one of the 3 values we have is caring. When we talk about caring is at the core of what we do, and they took very good care of me. Amazing boss, amazing board, amazing executive team. علاقتنا يعني ضحك ومزح it's a very casual team. يمكن الناس اللي يعرفونا, we're very very practical, hands on from and that's not only Nader, that's the culture that the company has created long before I came, and that we continue to build. So yeah, that's the journey, and then I basically was promoted a few years later to become the deputy CEO. With that came a much bigger responsibility, managing the strategy, managing the business development, managing basically our entrance into healthcare. يمكن بعض الناس ما يعرفوا, ولكن Bupa العربية is no longer a medical insurance company. We now have obtained the license to operate في مجال القطاع الصحي. We are very soon, we announced it, so it's not a surprise, we're a public listed company. We have a CEO now. We are actually going through a major basically restructuring and transformation. So I'm very proud to be part of that. I'm very proud and privileged, I would say, to be given the room to be able to deliver what I delivered with the team. I was very blessed with the super team that was around me. I think one of the key things I've learned is that trust is must in an organization. It's an organization that trusts its people, allows them to do mistakes. يعني يا كثر الأخطاء اللي نرتكبها كتنفيذيين أو إداريين أو موظفين. فهذه كلها عوامل مهمة في نجاح بوبا العربية ونجاح يمكن القادة التنفيذيين لها. Zain, by the way, is also a member of Bupa. We have a couple of other, by the way, 20, 30 leaders that are related with Bupa one way or another, either as members of management or executive team or some of the committees. She sits on our basically audit committee. We have Noura Sarhan also is a member of our investment committee. يعني ويمكن أنا كنت أول واحد في بوبا. I joined the 2030 leader program, then I advocated for it. طارق العمودي, most of you know, joined. عمر شاولي joined. ناصر joined. And I do understand that يمكن أكثر من واحد بعد ناصر I think also joined from Bupa. So we're big fans of that. The company has been very supportive. They've covered our costs for travel. They've been very flexible around us because they do believe that's part of what better way to learn and what better way. I think philosophy حقت الشركة إنه the network you built. وأنا مثلا أقعد مثلا في بعض الشركات تفاجأت when I was interviewing قالوا لي أنت كيف تقعد في مجالس إدارة أو لجان. تفكير الإدارة عندنا وطالب الذات بيقول لك يا أخي طيب this is better for the I want my guys to be well connected with the business community, and what better way to advocate for Bupa and to represent Bupa in these type of committees and boards that have the key decision makers around you. That's how you sell Bupa. فشوف الفكر اللونج تيرم versus لا بس هذا حيتضارب مع عملك. انت كيف بتروح المسك 2030 program؟ طيب what about your work؟ طيب يا اخي I'm an executive of this organization. I know how to manage my time. وإذا أنا قصرت في عملي then تعال حاسبني. But unfortunately not all organizations think that way. فأجين فضل كبير لأرامكو أولا زي ما قلت لكم من ناحية يعني الemployers, and then Bupa, and I spent 15 years in Aramco, another 8 years in Bupa العربية, and I just had my last day of work April 30th, which is أمس معليش لأن أنت واحد طلع من العمل تبدأ فترة هذه الديتس شوية.
So you're gonna reveal?
Yes, so probably you will be one of the first officially. I'll be on record. So I will. It was a very difficult decision for me. I'm not leaving Bupa because of any financial gain or unhappiness. بالعكس, and by the way, I'm going to be leaving Bupa but still being on their board. So that's a testament of what Bupa means to me and what I mean to Bupa and what Bupa is all about. So once you're in Bupa, you're always in Bupa. يعني كان طال قبل كم سنة في فيديو في I think the 25th anniversary قال my blood is blue. فقلت يعني طيب fine, I didn't understand الناس القدام and كذا. But I think when I left Bupa a few days back, I told them I finally realized what that means. My blood is blue. I don't know how it's gonna turn. I think it's gonna turn green now, and because the Misk 2030 program played a very important role, and I think was really the decisive factor in me leaving Bupa. لأنه being here in Jeddah, and in insurance, you're quite away from the action. I wanted to join the Misk 2030 program because I felt distant in this bubble, beautiful bubble, I was in my comfort zone. But I realized I'm missing a lot. فواحد من زملائي الأخ محمد المازي CFO of SGS قال لي نادر there's a program called Misk. نفس الشيء ايش مسك زي IMD. قال لي قدمت, got accepted, went there, said all right, let me try it out. And it was an opportunity for me to see what the kingdom has to offer and what is Vision 2030. لأن لما تقراها في الصحف ولا as you know في الانترنت you don't get the feeling. And I think it was one of the best the important parts of my career. One of many, but a very important part because I realized I need to be part of that. I can play a role. For كل roles اللي I was accommodating in terms of discussing were related some way or another to the government. And when I realized I had two options, يا إني become a public servant working for a ministry, وكيل, نائب, whatever it is, موظف, أو إني ألعب role that I'm comfortable with, which I think my strategic acumen, business acumen, accounting acumen, commercial acumen as well, would play a very big role, which is joining one of the PIF companies. So that's my filtration process. فقلت I would love to become a public servant, but maybe my next move. But I would first like to be a bit more gradual going into a PF company because it's more kind of linked to a private sector, profit targets, return targets, commercialization, strategy, business. So I I decided to join one of the PF companies, and في PF companies فكرت what bigger, more ambitious project, and probably you would guess Neom.
Yeah.
So I will be joining Neom as a group CFO starting July 1st. I'm very privileged to have been given the opportunity to play hopefully a role, an active role, and getting this big giant of, I would, at least my understanding is not one giga project, it's a portfolio of giga projects, is the mother of all projects, I think, in PIF. It is of big impact. It's our face to the world, not only to Saudi Arabia. I look very forward to be part of that, and hopefully can leave a lasting impact. وهذه قصتي صراحة professionally, and I don't know if I run time, but hopefully that kind of defines who I am as Nader, both personally and professionally.
And a great storyteller يعني تجاوزت كل الأسئلة ما شاء الله عليك.
والله معليش.
That's great. No بالعكس.
لأني أنا
بالعكس.
لأني صراحة أكون أكذب أنا يعني I barely last night even and I made it on my notes دكتورة الله يجزاها خير إنه I couldn't put it in the PDF, so I didn't really have time. I got to the kind of the themes, but I wasn't able to really. So I said better come من القلب كذا, just improvise so it becomes more real.
Great, that's really awesome.
يعطيكم العافية.
حقيقة I'm speechless على كل الجيرني هذا والباشن والأشياء اللي you've been through. إذا نختصر سريع في حتة اللي هي for the leaders, what's the go-to when it comes to Nader? يعني نبغى إذا نروح لنادر نروح له عشان إيش؟
I think one of the biggest things I love to do is to promote local talent. I'm a very big fan of Saudiization and Saudi talent. And I'm extremely proud when I see talent find their way. I sit on, I'm well connected, I believe, and, sit on different committees, boards. So I always get phone calls from, some of the bigger, headhunting firms asking me if I would know someone that is good in this or that. So I love أحس يعني من
Is this like an indirect way of send the CVs?
No, yeah,
guys?
I like to have, it's not really I'm looking for a job. It's more, I like to sit around with people, get to know them, because opportunities do arise. And the market is so much in demand of talent. And I could easily say that the supply is way less than the demand. There's a new project every other day. There's a new challenge, new opportunity. And you realize that it's a bit, يعني أنا بعطيك سبيل المثال لما يمكن one of the interviews I had in my last discussion إنه نادر فين كنت متخبي? How come we didn't know about you? When I'm sure that's the case, that I'm not the smartest person, I'm not the brightest person, but I'm saying sometimes في توفيق من رب العالمين. I am 100% sure there are people that are 10 times as hardworking than I am. لأن أنا متأكد أقول I'm dedicated, I'm passionate. تقول لي طيب when I'm طالع values, we all share the same values: passion, dedication, excellence, integrity. So we're all special in our own ways. But I think it's just really making the connections, getting out of your way to get to know people. مثلا اليوم كنت قاعد مع عبد الله الياس اللي هو أحد الفاوندرز حقون كريم.
Yes.
كنت بفطر معه، فعلى طول راح شبكني مع واحد طلع من one of the groups ما يحضرني اسمه. فنفس الشيء قال لي نادر, you're a great mind. I know this not a great mind. Why don't I connect you together? So I think that's what I can help with. I also would like to provide my perspective. People who have ideas, I think I've seen a lot. My role in various shapes was to scrutinize, kick the tires, provide an opinion. I think people who have business opinions. I was also a serial entrepreneur. I tried a few businesses, بس ما دخلت في الموضوع هذا إنه الحديث يطول. We had Bupa Ventures, so I was actually on the VC front. So I did actually, assess a couple of startups. I was also on Aramco IPO business, which is its own entrepreneurship center of, funding VCs. So I've seen many companies. I'm not saying I know it all, but if you're looking for another opinion, I may be wrong. دائما بس واحد يقول ما استشار ما خبى من استشار يعني.
True.
خد استشير نادر استشير غير نادر, بس أعتقد من أهم الأشياء استشارة الغير, and then you come up with your own opinion.
Thank you so much نادر. أعتقد المايك يبغى يتنقل من كل واحد لواحد. ف we'll open the Q&A now.
شوية علي.
تفضل.
طيب بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. You mentioned something about self-discovery at the beginning, and it made me just keep picking on this point during the whole speech. يعني ما شاء الله تبارك الله. Self-discovery is an interesting thing. It touches me basically, يعني personally, a lot. لأنه I had a lot in common between things you said and myself. It really touched me. How did your self-discovery change over time? يعني أنت عارف, when we are young, we go into something and we want to learn something and we discover something and we start developing from the days you started studying, from the days you started working, but things change over time and it develops in a different way.
صحيح. I think self-discovery also comes with risk-taking. They come hand in hand. Life becomes more complicated as you go older. I always tell people, if you want to make a decision, make it now, because it never gets easier. Your family grows, you get heavier, تبدأ تفكر ما أقدر أنقل عشان عيالي. Your commitments increase. You get older by nature. You get هذا. But for me, I'm still in self-discovery mode. I really don't know what is next for me. You just need to do. دائما بقول للناس إنه whatever choice you make the best out of it. وبعدين it's not the end of the world. يعني I've done mistakes. In certain matters, I joined committees or boards, or committees to be specifically. استكشفت it's not what was sold to me. I didn't shy away, say sorry, but I don't think I could add value here and step back. So you have to, with self-discovery, take risks. But I always say, do it now than later, because it never gets easier. But then you're learning also, it guides you. So you find yourself, you never walk in a straight line. It just takes you, life works in mysterious ways. It's not, you don't really, لو تقول لي اليوم I am where I am today amongst this team, ما كان في تصور اني I will end up in Neom, like oil and gas guy, an insurance guy. What the hell am I doing in Neom? فاهم ايش قصدي؟ او حتى oil and gas insurance ايش دخل هذا في هذا؟ فاهم؟ just have a, it's self-belief. Yes, there are moments where you kind of reflect and doubt, what the hell am I doing? You just continue believing in yourself, continuing basically learning. And because if you're not going to do what, if دائما أقول لزوجتي, the day I feel that I am too comfortable, that's dangerous for me. فقلت لي طب انت بوبا deputy CEO, next maybe يمكن بعد كم سنة تصير CEO, ايش تبغى احسن من كذا والشركة سوت لك. Yes, I'm very grateful. But it's part of learning to take these risks and explore new opportunities and see what life has. يعني ربنا ايش كاتب لك.
يعطيك العافية. تفضل.
يعطيك العافية. Just marvelous, brilliant, fascinating as always. So I always look for something unique, and so far it hasn't failed. Every one of these sessions I walked away with a very unique vantage point. In your case, I didn't know what it would be. So it seems like the common theme in all the previous sessions was knowing what you want. So there were many variations on that. Not knowing what you want, there was many variations on that, and challenges. هذه أول مرة أشوف أحد يحط emphasis على new category, which is knowing what you don't want. And I think a lot of us compromise, a lot of us play along while our subconscious knows that we don't want this, or we don't know any better. Yet you seem to have had a knack for it earlier on in the game, and it made all the difference. So I think that's a great addition to these other subcategories of things we should pay attention to for us and for our kids as well.
Yes, absolutely.
So a little bit more on knowing what you don't want.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, it all boils down, يعني يمكن it's a bit superficial, it may come across superficial. I'm a very, for example, yes, I'm a very methodical, an accountant, accountant, debit and credits, ما في شيء في الوسط. Yet you realize that the biggest decisions are gut feeling decisions. وحتقعد مع احد يقول لي اتذكر ارامكو are you out of your mind leaving Aramco leaving the largest IPO of الى اخره كل اللي سويته you're not gonna go ring the bell you're gonna be the next CFO you know Aramco تروح لشركة تأمين it just felt right that gut feeling I think is way more important than any opinion any logic it just really boils down to that I mean and you just have to, again, back to the comment I said before, it may not be the most brilliant thing you've done, but just make the best out of it. And it's not the end of the world. يعني إذا رحت أو رحتي إلى وظيفة اليوم, which sounded to be great, and it didn't turn out to be what you were looking for, there are so many, if you really believe in what you have to deliver, there are so many opportunities out there. Don't undermine the work and the effort that you, your parents, your family have done for you to be where you are. Being here, being part of the Misk 2030 leadership, being in your positions, that's already a testament. الواحد ذكرني طارق العمودي أمس قال لي نادر, even if your next decision is not right, you're no longer the small junior staff. We do mistakes, but you are now at a position where you can make your own choices, and that's a privilege. So I hope that answers your question, maybe indirectly.
اهلا مساء الخير يعطيك العافيه استاذ نادر. First of all انا احمد جميل مسك فيلو very lucky صراحه to be يعني among these leaders. بتعلم مره كثير صراحه. انا كيف بيمر درست في البترول في البزنس سكول اي كان ريليت
خلاص يكفى يعني هذا طيب خلاص you're done.
دكتور محمد مرغني.
كمان تعرف محمد مرغني؟
يس درست
طيب خلاص اجل.
يمكن أنا دحين في بداية الكارير now I am associate brand manager في شركة جودي. بس دحين حاسس إنه ماني عارف هل أخطط بشكل واضح لماي دريم جوب ولا أخليها تمشي زي ما هي. عشان دي اليوم جالس أداوم I am lack of purpose ماني حاسس إني أنا بداوم عشان إيش. الرؤية ما هي واضحة. يوم ما جالس أخطط كثير ناس يوم استشرتهم قالوا لا تخطط خليها تمشي زي ما هي. فماني عارف should I plan ولا خليها تمشي زي ما هي.
You always have to plan, but you need to know that plans are not set in stone. يعني اعقلها وتوكل بمعنى إنه you have to put the effort. So if you're a finance grad, whatever, you have to do what finance or accounting grads do. So the market environment today is way more competitive than what it was. I remember, you know, when I sat for my CPA examination or my CIA examination or the CMA هذه يمكن أشياء ما ذكرتها. ولا في هارفارد كان أيامها إني دخلت هارفارد هذا كان يعني شيء كبير يعني ما حد سمع فيه. But now going to Harvard every year there are a few Saudi ladies or men that are graduating from Harvard, the MIT, the Harvard. فأنت سوي اللي عليك يعني do what you can do and everything you do your best. And again لازم تتميز في كل شيء تسويه. I always tell my kids, I always tell my kids today, I'm not going to do what my parents did where get to medical school because medical school means security, job security. May not be the best paying job. It's a noble job, but it's not the best paying job in some cases. But أنا message حقي لعيالي, I know you're older, just excel in whatever you do. And just let it, and things will happen. أنا هذه خبرتي. بس don't expect things great to happen if you're just another employee or you're just another business guy or you're just another leader. You have to have something. What's your value proposition? What do you have to offer that's different from others? And that takes a lot of effort because the market is becoming way more competitive. الشباب السعوديين حتى الناس اللي أصغر مننا they are now way more competitive, way more distinguished. ما بقلل من هذا بس الماركت environment وتشوف الناس اللي أكبر مننا كان عندهم أتذكر أنا لما جيت أرامكو كان زمان اللي إذا أنت سعودي just being a Saudi that by itself is a big plus that can land you a leadership role. But that's no longer the case. As a matter of fact, some of the bigger projects, giga projects today are led by non-Saudis. So that being Saudi alone does not work. So we need to be distinguished. The market, labor market, job market is no longer local. The 2030 made it. Yes, في مشروع سعودة ومهم, ولكن the government is not shying away to hire the best globally because what we're trying to do here is unprecedented of a scale and transformation like no else. قول لي فين أي محل في العالم بيحاول يسوي اللي بنحاول نسويه في البلد. فhopefully that answers the question. وبرضه زي ما قلت لك anytime if you need anything you can have my number. ما دامك انت we share the same school and هذا I can always hopefully
واسطة.
يعني كان
نادر حقيقة ان الوقت معك بيمشي بسرعة. يا ريت كان عندنا more time to have you معانا.
بالعكس.
However, time is off
Thank
now
you.
and we have to say thank you نادر صراحة. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for إثراءنا بكل المعلومات والجيرني هذا. And wish you all the best إن شاء الله in your new challenge. وإن شاء الله بالتوفيق وموفق دائما.
شكرا. Thank you
so much.
for this.